Welcome to Mind Beyond, a place where curiosity meets the deeper truths of the human mind, science, and the unseen forces that shape our lives. Here, we explore the ideas that live at the intersection of biology, philosophy, and human experience. From the mysteries of the brain to the hidden mechanics of our emotions, every story invites you to look beyond the surface and understand the extraordinary systems working quietly inside us. Tonight's journey begins with a simple question. Can gratitude actually heal the human heart? Not metaphorically, not spiritually alone, but physically, at the level of cells, hormones, and the rhythm of the human body. For centuries, philosophers and spiritual traditions have spoken about the power of gratitude. Ancient teachings from many cultures encourage people to give thanks daily, believing that appreciation brought peace to the soul and balance to life. For a long time, science considered these ideas symbolic rather than biological. But modern research has begun to uncover something remarkable. Gratitude is not only a feeling, it is a measurable physiological state. Inside the human body, every emotion triggers a cascade of chemical reactions. Fear releases adrenaline. Anxiety elevates cortisol. Anger floods the bloodstream with stress hormones that prepare the body for conflict. Gratitude, however, activates an entirely different system. When a person consciously practices appreciation, even for small things, the brain signals the nervous system to shift from a stress response state into a recovery state. This shift begins deep within the brain, in regions responsible for emotional regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. Instead of activating survival mechanisms, these areas communicate with the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for healing, digestion, and restoration. As this system activates, one of the most important biological changes begins to occur. Cortisol levels start to fall. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone. In small amounts, it helps the body respond to danger. But when cortisol remains elevated for long periods, it slowly damages the cardiovascular system. It tightens blood vessels. It increases inflammation. And over time, it contributes to the gradual deterioration of arterial tissue. This silent erosion is one of the hidden drivers behind many heart diseases. Yet something unexpected happens when gratitude becomes a daily habit. Studies monitoring individuals who practiced structured gratitude exercises, such as writing daily appreciation notes or reflecting on positive experiences, revealed measurable changes in their cardiovascular systems. Within weeks, researchers observed improvements in heart rate variability, one of the strongest indicators of heart health. Heart rate variability, often called HRV, measures the subtle variation between heartbeats. A healthy heart does not beat like a machine. Instead, it constantly adapts, responding flexibly to the body's needs. High HRV indicates resilience. Low HRV, on the other hand, often appears in individuals experiencing chronic stress, anxiety, or cardiovascular strain. When participants practiced gratitude consistently, their HRV began to stabilize. Their hearts were no longer reacting to the constant pressure of stress signals. Instead, the cardiovascular system entered a more balanced rhythm, a rhythm associated with healing and recovery. But the most fascinating changes were happening even deeper, at the cellular level of the arteries themselves. Research suggests that chronic stress damages the delicate inner lining of blood vessels known as the endothelium. This thin layer of cells plays a critical role in controlling blood flow, inflammation, and vascular repair. When cortisol and stress chemicals remain elevated, the endothelium becomes inflamed and less flexible. Over time, this damage contributes to plaque formation and arterial stiffness. However, gratitude appears to influence the biological pathways responsible for this inflammation. By reducing cortisol and activating the parasympathetic nervous system, gratitude encourages the release of molecules associated with vascular repair and anti-inflammatory responses. In other words, appreciation does not only calm the mind, it begins to create a biochemical environment where the body can repair itself. The heart, constantly beating more than 100,000 times a day, finally receives the signal that the environment is safe enough to heal. And this is where the boundary between ancient wisdom and modern science begins to dissolve. Because long before laboratories and heart rate monitors existed, many traditions understood something essential about human biology. A calm and grateful mind creates a healthier body. But modern science is now revealing that this is not simply philosophical advice. It is a biological mechanism built into the human nervous system. And the more researchers study the connection between gratitude and cardiovascular health, the more they realize that something deeper may be happening. Something that connects emotions, neural signals, and cellular regeneration in ways we are only beginning to understand. But the story does not stop with hormones or neural signals. Because the human heart is not simply a pump that pushes blood through the body. It is a sensitive center that communicates continuously with the brain through a complex network of electrical and neurological signals. This communication is known in science as the heart-brain axis. Every thought that passes through the human mind, every emotion a person experiences, leaves a small imprint on the rhythm of the heart. When a person lives under constant pressure, anxiety, fear, financial stress, or daily conflict, this axis begins to lose its balance. The heart starts sending irregular signals to the brain, and the brain responds by releasing even more stress hormones. It becomes a closed loop of tension. But gratitude works in a completely different way. When a person pauses, even briefly, to recognize something good in their life, something as simple as a cool breeze, a quiet moment, or the presence of someone they love, the brain begins to reinterpret the surrounding environment. Instead of seeing the world as a constant threat, it begins to perceive it as a place that can be navigated and lived within safely. This subtle shift in perception sends calming signals through the nervous system, and the heart responds with a more harmonious and regulated rhythm. Over time, the effect is not limited to a temporary feeling of calm. The body itself begins to reprogram its response to stress. Some modern studies suggest that individuals who practice gratitude regularly show increased activity in genes related to anti-inflammatory processes and reduced activity in genes associated with chronic stress responses. In other words, the emotions a person chooses to cultivate each day may even influence how their genes behave. It is a remarkable example of the deep relationship between human awareness and biology. Yet perhaps the most astonishing part of this phenomenon is its simplicity. This treatment does not require advanced machines. It does not depend on expensive medications. And it does not demand complex technology. It begins with something very simple: the ability to notice the good that already exists in one's life. Just 3 minutes of gratitude a day can begin to change the rhythm of the nervous system. Within weeks, stress levels in the bloodstream may start to decline, and over months, the heart itself may begin functioning in a calmer and more balanced internal environment. Here lies one of the most beautiful discoveries of modern science. Sometimes the most powerful forces influencing human health are not found in laboratories, but within human awareness itself. Conclusion. Perhaps this is why ancient civilizations preserved the practice of gratitude for thousands of years, long before humans understood anything about cells or hormones. They sensed that gratitude changed something deep within the human being. And today, after centuries of scientific progress, we are beginning to discover that this ancient intuition was not merely spiritual wisdom. It was touching a profound biological truth. The human heart is influenced not only by what we eat or how much we exercise, but also by what we feel every single day. In a world that grows faster and more stressful with time, gratitude may be one of the simplest keys that allows the body to remember how to return to balance. Because sometimes, the most powerful forms of healing do not begin in hospitals. They begin in the way we choose to see life itself. Mind Beyond, where we explore ideas that go beyond the limits of the mind and reveal the deeper secrets within the human being.